Welcome to my second video on NLP and hypnosis. Today I'm going to talk about addictive habits. Those are the habits which basically you can't get rid of. Smoking, biting your nails, binge eating, procrastination. The things you want to get rid of, but they seem to stick around no matter what you do. I'm going to tell you how they develop, why they stick around, and how to get rid of them once and for all. But first I'm going to tell you about my view of the mind, in case you haven't run into me before. I don't think of the conscious and unconscious as separate things. I think of the whole mind, and that's really the unconscious mind. It contains a consciousness as a little subcompartment, and that subcompartment is designed basically to be fast. It's got limited information available on a need-to-know basis. It's got a limited capacity for attention, someplace between usually between 5 and 9 items it can juggle at once. If you're really tired, maybe it feels more like one item. Technically, we call it the 7 plus or minus 2 rule, because that's really what it amounts to, 5 to 9. Although, if you're really tired, it seems like the 1 plus or minus 2 rule. And then again, if you're really at peak, you might be able to handle more than 9 items at once, if you're a good multitasker. And it has limited, modified rules that you've learned as you were growing up that usually work, but not always. It's streamlined for a reason, and that reason is to deal with the present and the immediate future. The unconscious mind can make very precise judgments and very accurate judgments, but one problem is it's got so much information. In fact, everything you've ever experienced or learned is all stored in there. And it has to manipulate that information to make choices, and that takes time. That's slow. And survival responses need to be fast, and that's why the conscious mind exists. It's streamlined, has limited capacity, limited information, simplified rules, so it can make fast judgments. It's a survival center for the whole mind and for the body. And if you think about what that really means, you realize that your unconscious mind is your conscious mind's best friend, because it wants it to be operating at peak. That means it doesn't want it to worry, because if it's worrying, it's using up some of the attention span. And if it's not happy, it's thinking about why it's not happy, and it's using up attention that could be used for the real world, for the things that it was in the present it has to deal with. So your unconscious mind really wants you to be happy and efficient. And it'll do anything it can to make you that way. Now I'm going to use smoking as my poster child because it's simple and straightforward in how it develops and how it works. But this applies to any of those addictive habits. Substitute your favorite addictive habit for it, and it'll fit just about right. But here's the thing. When you start smoking, you don't do it automatically. It's deliberate. Maybe your friends did it and you thought it was cool. Maybe your parents did it so it was okay. But you had to do it consciously. You take a cigarette, you light it, you take a drag, put the cigarette down, exhale. That used 2 of those attention compartments I was talking about. You had to be careful about putting it down because you didn't want to burn anything. That's 3. You didn't want your mother to find out you were smoking. That's 4. You were avoiding that. And 5, you didn't want the ashes to go all over the place. If it happened to be one of those days when you only had 5 compartments available for attention, it's all gone. And even if it wasn't, and you were at peak and maybe had 9 for a capacity of 9 items, well, those 9 items, 5 is over half of them. So you're wasting your attention on things like that, and your unconscious mind knows that. You keep doing it, it might not approve of your smoking, but if you're going to do it anyway, it's going to take it over. It's going to say, hey, they're wasting their attention span, I'm going to take it over and do it. And it does. And suddenly it becomes automatic. And you think about a cigarette and suddenly you're smoking, maybe even wondering why. But the unconscious mind is extremely efficient. If it's doing something for you, it's going to try to find something else to do with it. And there we get into what we call secondary benefits. Secondary gains. The other things you get out of a habit. Now it might be a break. You might use it for a break in a busy day, or to deflect you from something that's bothering you. For a husband and wife, maybe one will sit down, light a cigarette, and signal to the other one, hey, let's spend some time together. So the partner comes over, sits down, they light a cigarette, and they spend some time talking. And that's really what keeps you addicted to that kind of a habit. You're not really hooked on the nicotine nearly as much, because if you took the kind of dose of nicotine it took to get a strong addiction, you'd be dead. You wouldn't have to worry about it. So that's the thing about it. You've got benefits you get from the smoking besides the obvious one. I mean, you can quit fairly easily. You can take Chantix, you can use hypnosis, you can just use the brute strength approach and do it by willpower. But you've heard these horror stories. Yeah, I stopped smoking, no problem. But I gained 35 pounds. And you've heard the other end of the spectrum where I quit smoking, stayed away from cigarettes for a couple of years, then I got really stressed out and I started smoking. I don't know why I did. In the first case, what happened was you really needed those secondary benefits, whatever they were. Your unconscious mind knew that. And if you weren't smoking, it was going to attach it to something else you're doing, in that case, snacking. Suddenly you balloon out. The other one is you didn't need the secondary benefits nearly as much as you needed to quit smoking, so it wasn't attached to anything. But then when the situation came up where you were stressed out and you needed the old benefits, the old behavior came back, and you had the old benefits again. And that leads to my method of dealing with habits like smoking. I teach you self-hypnosis. That's basically what any hypnosis is. You're doing it for yourself. An honest hypnotist is going to say, hey, you're hypnotizing yourself. And you really are. I'm just a guide. So I teach you how to get into trance, get out of trance, and to use it for certain things. And then I have you go put yourself in trance, get you nice and deep, where you're really relaxed and comfortable. And I have a chat with your unconscious mind. I say, hey, they don't want to smoke anymore. They realize it's bad for the body and their health, and it costs a lot of money. They're worried about that. And I know you have other things that you're using the smoking for. But would you be willing, if you could find something else that would give those same benefits, and maybe some extra benefits besides, would you be willing to replace the smoking with that? And invariably, the unconscious mind is going to agree. It's going to want that, because it wants the conscious mind to be as efficient as it can be. So then the next thing is, I ask, in that case, take the smoking, separate those benefits from the smoking. Now go to your creative part. Explain what those benefits are and the things that you and the conscious mind want to avoid. And have it give you several new behaviors that will give at least as good benefits as the smoking did, and some extras besides. And once you've got those, take them back and look at the things where you used to smoke. And for each one of those, find the best new behavior for that situation. Splice it in, and then imagine a future time when you would have smoked, and you use that new behavior. See how it feels, how it looks, how it fits. Is it the right one? Once you've got the right ones, go ahead and splice them in as a permanent fix, so that instead of smoking, anytime they would have smoked before, they use a new behavior, and they really enjoy the difference. They may not understand what the benefits are, they don't need to, but they are enjoying the change. And as long as you're doing that, let's deal with something else that's probably gotten in their way. They've tried to quit smoking, and they failed. Because when you try, you're implying you're going to fail. But this time they decided to do something really solid about it. And at the moment they made that decision, they became a non-smoker. So I'd like for you to change the way they think about smoking. They aren't trying to quit smoking. They're non-smokers right now. They like it, and they're going to stay that way from now on. Make it so. Now this is a shortcut version of it. There's more reinforcement that goes on. But I use basically the same pattern for any addictive habit. I tweak it a little bit for whatever the habit is. Does it work? If you want it to work, it will work. It has to be for yourself. It has to be selfish, because if you're just doing it to please someone else, it isn't going to work. In fact, if I find that out during the interview, I tell you, come back when you want it for yourself. Then we'll make it work. But if you want it for yourself, you want it to work, you believe it'll work, you will it to work, and it will work. That's the way hypnosis is. And now I'm done babbling for a while. Except for two things. If you like these videos, want to learn more about them, why don't you go to my website and sign up for my newsletter. Not only will it tell what the new videos are when they come out, but it also gives you some helpful hints that you can use even without hypnosis. And that's it, except for one thing. I'm a hypnotist, and I always like to give suggestions, and here's my suggestion to you. Have a really wonderful week, and I'll talk to you again next week with a new video.